The member for Casey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As a Victorian member of this House that represents that part of outer eastern Melbourne and the Yarra Valley that adjoins the McEwen electorate of Fram Bailey, I want to associate myself with all of the speakers on the motion moved by the Deputy Prime Minister yesterday, and to the words of the Prime Minister, to all of those who spoke yesterday, and to the moving words we've just heard from the member for Macmillan. We are united in our sorrow for the families who are grieving. We're shocked at the scale of the tragedy. We are, as previous speakers have said, in total awe of the volunteers and the emergency service workers. We're proud of the community spirit that we're seeing and that we've seen in tragedies in the past. And as the Prime Minister's indicated and the member for Macmillan just reiterated, we are still coming to terms with a horror that's growing and a nightmare that's not over. Can I thank all of the CFAs from across Casey and McEwen? As you imagine, they work very closely together, and as we speak and meet here in this House, they're fighting those fires in and around Yarra Glen and Healesville. Can I thank all of the CFAs from across Victoria and the volunteer firefighters from right around Australia, together with the police and emergency services. As the Prime Minister indicated, even the most hardened and experienced of police and emergency service workers are seeing things they've never seen in their careers. Can I thank the staff of the Shire of Yarra Ranges, led by the Mayor Len Cox and the Chief Executive Officer Glenn Patterson, who are working around the clock. I spoke to Fran Bailey just before. She asked me in speaking today to pass on to all of you who've left messages for her thanks, and she's passed those messages on behalf of all of us to her constituents. She's passed them on behalf of all 150 of us here in this House that represent each corner of Australia. As you know, Fran's office and her home are in Healesville, which today has fire close by on the doorstep. And so she can keep working, she's moved herself and her office down to my office a little further down on the Maroondah Highway in Chirnside Park. The Leader of the Opposition spoke yesterday of the accounts he had had on the ground about the sheer speed and ferocity of the fire. My wife and I and young sons live right on the gateway to the Yarra Valley, up on a hill on the edge of Chirnside Park and Lilydale. And like so many Melburnians, when we saw the mushroom cloud of black and grey erupting over King Lake on Saturday afternoon, and then that wind change, gale force winds, followed by a deadly symphony of fires starting off along the Melbourne Highway at Dixon's Creek and Steeles Creek and into Yarra Glen, followed by spot fires and fires started by lightning. The sheer scale of it was beyond comprehension. Mr Speaker, as a Victorian member, and other Victorian members would agree that most Melburnians can see the Yarra Valley Mountains and the Dandenong Ranges from where they work and live. And when smoke rose from the Yarra Valley late on Saturday afternoon, most feared what it might mean. Most instinctively thought of Ash Wednesday, our worst reference point. That we've awoken to, and as we need to keep reminding ourselves, are still in the midst of, something more horrific, naturally strains our human capacity to comprehend. Mr. Speaker, many Victorian members here know well the country towns we've been reading and talking about, towns like Marysville, Kinglake and Flowerdale, because we've been there on school camps or on day trips. We've driven along the roads that became death traps. We've played footy or cricket there. But can I say, all of us here in this House and all Australians know these towns and these people, because the community spirit which built them and which has sustained them and which will rebuild them is alive in every Australian, in every town.